Welcome to Backstage with Becca B, with special guest Matthew Scott Montgomery. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca B. On this episode, you might have seen him on guest star spots on multiple Disney Channel shows and as a recurring role on Disney Channel's So Random. You also might have seen him on stage in Los Angeles. He's written shows, produced shows, and acted in shows, and recently has taken on musicals. Please welcome Matthew Scott Montgomery. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I want to keep theater, the talk of it alive in the best way possible. So
Same.
I came up with this idea and it's going well so far.
How are you?
Doing good. In Dallas right now.
Okay.
Hanging out with family, and I
Cool.
don't have a return flight yet, but one of these days.
One of these days, who knows?
One of these.
I was with my family I stayed with my parents for maybe 3 months, right at the beginning of quarantine, because I was like, free food, there's no reason to be in LA right now.
Yes.
So yeah, I understand.
So, when was the first time you wanted to be an actor in whether it's TV, film, or on stage?
The first time I knew I wanted to be an actor, I've told you this before, we've talked before.
I know, I feel like it's deja vu.
When I was a kid growing up, my parents were athletes. They didn't know anything about the entertainment industry or arts or anything like that. So I didn't when I was really young, I didn't go to acting class or know that was a thing you could ask for or that was a thing that even existed. So I think going back watching home movies, you can trace me wanting to be a performer. But I would do this thing that I don't know why I did this. I just did this, and I did this with several TV shows. But I would see stuff on TV. I would tape it on a VHS tape, and then I would wait till my family went to sleep. I would put the VHS tape back in the VCR quietly in the living room. I would write down the dialogue as best as I could, and then I would go in the mirror and try to get it exactly perfect to what I saw on TV. And I did that with Will and Grace, actually, which is a show I'm not allowed to watch. And I would secretly tape it and memorize it. And then I did that with this show called Once and Again, Becca, that was on in the late 90s, I think. And it was this show that was like a soap opera basically at nighttime. And there was this episode that was banned from North Carolina because it had two girls kissing in it. And it came out... So my mom's best friend was obsessed with this show, and they wouldn't air the episode in North Carolina, so she special ordered this VHS tape from Virginia or something, and I went over to that person's house, I stole the VHS tape, hid it under my shirt, brought it home, and I would sneak it back and forth. These people lived across the street. I would sneak this tape, and there was this scene between Misha Barton and Evan Rachel Wood when they were 12 or 13, of them falling in love and the scene where they kiss, and I was obsessed with the scene, and I would watch it over and over again and memorize it, and I would play both parts of myself in the mirror. So I think I was a queer kid desperate to express himself, and I just kind of subconsciously did that. I never told anyone I did it. I would just do it to feel something, and I just felt this need to perform things that maybe I couldn't do in real life. And then I started getting into theater and stuff like that. But that was the first time I think I knew that I wanted to be an actor.
So, well, you were rebellious, sneaking around and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And watching shows you weren't supposed to watch.
Yeah, it's funny. No one never knows that show. If you look it up on YouTube, maybe I'll send you the link. There's the scene is on YouTube. You can see this Evan Rachel Wood and Misha Barton scene when they're and they're phenomenal. Misha Barton is so good. Evan Rachel Wood is devastating, and I just loved that episode so much. I don't know.
So when did you come out to LA?
I came out to LA 10 years ago. So yeah. In fact, I did I'm in my apartment right now in West Hollywood. I did a big West Hollywood apartment clean, quarantine clean, literally last week. And while I was cleaning out, I found the first lease thing that I signed, and I was like, oh my God, this was dated 10 years ago right now. So I've been out here for a little over 10 years.
And how did you start getting auditions for things, start getting involved in acting out in LA?
So when I first moved out here, there was this place that doesn't exist anymore that was called Act Now. That was like a place where you did workshops for casting directors and you paid like a lot of money to like perform for casting directors. That got shut down. That was like, I think it's illegal now and like you can't do that anymore. So, and I couldn't afford classes, so I volunteered to work the parking garage. In place of class to to pay for classes. And Becca, when I was in the parking garage, all the casting directors would come in and park, and I would have so much personality, and I would like basically perform for them when I told them like where to park. And several casting directors got to know me because they would see me every week working the parking garage. And I got cast in a play. I submitted myself online, just submitted myself on Actors Access, got cast in a play that ended up running for a year. And it was a play called Yellow that was a drama. And I won some awards and some stuff like that. The casting directors that knew me from the parking lot saw that I was in this play, and then they came to see the play, and then they're like, oh, you're the parking lot guy. Wait, you're really good. And then they started bringing me in for auditions, and that's how the Disney stuff started. It didn't start with me necessarily getting an agent or a manager. It was like just all these things kind of added up, and that's kind of how it all started.
Just you like improving in a parking garage.
Oh, yeah. Basically. I was like, because I knew I had like 15 seconds. Because I'd be like, hey, you can't park in this spot, you can't park in this spot, make sure you do these, have a great night. And I would put up flyers of the play that I was in right next to where I was sitting. And I made sure I looked like really cute and was like just so like, just like the most 100% version of myself. Like, hey guys, like that kind of thing. And it worked.
I feel like that's classic Matthew.
Yeah, no one told me to do that. I kind of just like figured it out on my own.
Well, good for you. So what was Yellow about? Because I read about it, and I read about the awards.
So Yellow was a play written and directed by a guy named Del Shores. Del Shores is the greatest playwright and probably director that I've ever worked with in theater. He's so insanely talented. He's known for doing like Southern Gothic comedy. He's done a lot of plays. Like he had this play called The Trials and Tribulations of a Trailer Trash Housewife that Octavia Spencer got her start doing that show. He's worked with Leslie Jordan a whole lot. I got to know Leslie through him. And so like he does these really incredible plays, and he's mostly known for comedy or dark comedy. And Yellow was like his first drama that he did. And it was a domestic drama about my character was a kid who was kicked out of his house for being gay, and I got adopted by the family next door. And when I'm living in this house next door, the family, the son gets a terminal illness, and I'm in love with the son. And so I'm kind of like living with my crush who's dying, and the family kind of starts dealing with they have to face some serious issues, and it kind of becomes a love story between me and this guy I can't be with, and then me trying to take care of this family around me that's falling apart. And it was a really it was a huge gift of a part because I got to be the comedic relief in this dramatic show. And there was this one sequence where my character acts out the entire musical Kiss of the Spider Woman. And so I got to do that every single night on stage. And so it's like I got to do like really satisfying dramatic stuff, but the way that Del writes, it's just inherently very funny. And so like that part, my character's name was Kendall, that part was such a gift to get to do. And we did that show for a year. And wow. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. And I credit that to giving me the start of everything, because there was a casting director, Howie Meltzer, who I adore, who's the greatest guy, who was casting Hannah Montana at the time. It was the very last few episodes. He saw me in the parking lot, came to see Yellow, called me in for Hannah Montana, then ended up calling me in for Shake It Up, and I booked the pilot of Shake It Up all through all those steps. So like I like have Howie to thank and Del Shores to thank and like theater to thank for all that stuff happening.
Did you ever see yourself like being on a channel like Disney Channel?
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I mean, it was so funny because like I did watch multicam stuff growing up. Like, of course, I watched Nickelodeon. I didn't really watch Disney a whole lot. And I, of course, secretly watched Will and Grace. But then when I moved out here, I was doing very serious theater. Even though I was the comedic relief, it wasn't like standard Disney stuff. So the fact that like casting saw me in that and then brought me in for Disney, I was like, okay, they can see beyond something that I was even seeing for myself. I mean, I remember at the time before I got cast in Disney, I was obsessed with Camp Rock and would watch that all the time, and High School Musical and all that stuff.
Yes.
But it was my dream when I was growing up to be on the OC. I wanted to play a teenager in I wanted to be like gay Adam Brody on a show like the OC, and that's what I thought of. So when the Disney stuff started happening, I was like, okay, and like it just kind of like spitballed, and I didn't necessarily see it, but I had a great time working for them, and I would love to work for them again.
Did that kind of help you with improv, or were you already like an expert at improv and comedy before that?
Oh, no, I mean, I ended up taking Groundlings only because I would go to commercial auditions and they would ask all the time this exact question, Becca. They would say, "Do you have improv experience?" Groundlings. And I was like, I need to go to the Groundlings. So I went there, but improv, to be completely honest, intimidated me, and it still intimidates me a little bit. I would much rather, people always find this hard to believe, but I'd much rather have a script. And when I had the audition for So Random or Sunny with a Chance, I didn't have sides for that. I didn't have lines. They just had me talk as a character, as four different characters, talk as them for a minute. That was the audition. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is not for me. I was like, this is not going to happen. So I literally just in the audition room did what I thought my brother would think is funny. Like I just did voices like he and I would do, or like what would make him laugh. And I was like, sure. And like, wasn't expecting that at all, because I was like, oh, we'll see how this goes. I'm just making stuff up. But like, I don't know. I guess it goes to show you just like trust your instincts, because like when I did the Groundlings, I had a positive experience with it, but they're pretty intense over there, or at least they were. And once I didn't have to do it anymore, I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't like, give me something to say. I don't want to have to make it all up. But I continue to do it. I mean, I do improv all the time now, and I get more and more comfortable with it.
Yeah, you're so good at it that
Oh,
I would never, yeah, I would never believe that like at a point you were as comfortable with it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, like, when I think of like really good improv comedians, I think of people like Chloe Feynman or my friend Oscar Montoya or Mano Agapian. Like, there's all these people who I idolize as improv people, and I don't self-identify as that because I know I haven't put the work in, or at least it feels like I haven't. There's also this guy Jimmy Falley with the Groundlings who I admire so much, and he's a friend of mine. Like those people, those are improv people. I don't think of myself like that at all. I think of them as like, those are like the gods of improv.
And I see the poster in the background.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how the Spook Night idea came to be? Because I think that's the first show I saw you in.
Was it really? Yeah, so Spook Night was, I used to do like an annual Halloween show here in LA that was 3 or 4 scenes. I would always call it like Scream meets Goosebumps for like millennials, basically. It was always like sexy, scary, and silly. And I would just like write stuff for my friends and cast my friends to put up like a Halloween night of one acts, basically. And it kind of took off. I'm surrounded by Spook Night posters. But it kind of started from when I was on, so I did Disney Channel for like back to back to back to back. I did like Shake It Up, and then it was Sunny with a Chance, So Random, and then Austin and Ally. And I was working all the time, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. So like So Random got canceled, and I just wanted to do a play again so bad. Like I was just like, I just want to do a play, and I was tired of waiting. So I was like, it was Halloween time. I was like, I'm just gonna write one, and I wrote some of it for some friends of mine who had never done theater before and always wanted to do a play. And I was like, I'll just like rent out a space for a night, and I'll write something, and we'll just do it, because like I want to do a play now, and I just was like, I want to write the kind of part that I haven't gotten to play yet in a while. So I'm just gonna write something for myself, and Halloween's my favorite. So and then it became like an annual thing, and we did it, I think 4 or 5 times. And the one behind me is Silent Night, Spook Night, which was our Christmas scary show. I've been very blessed since Spook Night's kind of petered out, because I've been blessed to be working usually every October or December in plays that I don't have to produce myself, which is very nice. I would love to do it again at one point. I've also fantasized about doing like I did like a short film version of it that I put on my YouTube, but those are some of my best memories as well. I'm so glad that you've seen it, and I have such a soft spot in my heart for those shows.
Yeah, and then I saw you at how do you say the name? Is it Geffen or
Geffen, Geffen.
Okay, because I feel like I never say it right. But then
Yeah.
I saw you there in the show the Stage Kids show.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a dream come true. I mean, like when you think of like really legit nice theaters here in Los Angeles, you have CTG, you have the Kirk Douglas, and the Geffen is a place I've always wanted to work, and that was a dream come true too. That was like that was probably the biggest live audience that I've performed for so far, and that was great because that was like a Broadway schedule. So we were dark on Mondays, but we would be Tuesday through Sunday, matinees on Saturdays and Sundays, and oh man, once theater's back, like I've auditioned there a few times. I had the that was too good to be true. That was such a gift. I love the Geffen so much.
So one of those shows when theater comes back is like the goal on the bucket list.
One of many goals, yes. I would love to be back there. That place is they have so much, I mean, like the money that they have behind their stuff. I mean, I'm a starving artist, so I'm so used to like pulling up by our bootstraps and trying to figuring out on the fly. And so to work in like a really like legit and super professional theater with like really great team, and their board is fantastic. I love what they do, and I love that space so much.
And do you have like, besides like something at one of the like local theaters in California, do you have like a dream role, whether it's in California or a play on Broadway or a musical on Broadway?
I mean, I would love. I mean, I have so many. I mean, I think I'm too old for Evan Hansen now, but like that would have been so great. Oh man, would that part been so fun?
You should audition and try.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. Just shave this face and
just try
time a little bit. It's theater, right?
Yeah.
I would love to originate a part. What was so great about Yellow was I was the first person to get to play that part, and so I kind of got to put my own stamp on it. And I have the published play. It's very exciting to like open a published play and see your name in it amongst people that you respect so much, because you're like, oh my gosh, the first person to get to do a play gets published, their name is the first one published in there. I mean, I'm sure there's been plays that you've read or that I've read where you look and you see like, oh, this is our youth. Let me read this. Oh my God, Mark Ruffalo was the first one in it. And then you like think like, oh my gosh, that person started it. So like, I would love to be with a show from the beginning, like I did with Yellow, in a Broadway aspect would be phenomenal. I think growing up as a kid I would be most excited watching the Tonys and the SAG Awards, because there's something about both of those award shows that feel like you get the respect of your peers, and you feel like it's there's a lot of politics and stuff with awards. There's every single, awards and stuff like that. But there's something about those two that feel particularly goal-worthy for me. I think I'm a fine singer. I'm not a great singer, but I usually play a lot of character parts where I can get away with like the vocals being like kind of all over the place. So I feel like if it were a musical on like Broadway or somewhere like that, it'd have to be a part where I wouldn't have to be the greatest singer, because like I learned very quickly when I moved out here. And I've auditioned for why am I drawing a blank? What's the Mormon show that
Book of Mormon?
Yeah, Book of Mormon. Why did I say the Mormon show?
The Mormon show? Book of Mormon.
I auditioned for the Mormon show. No, I auditioned for Book of Mormon a couple times, and just being in the room and hearing other people sing, I was like, I'm not good enough for this. I was like, I'm not quite here for that. So I think I'd have to get in from like the ground up to like do a musical, but to be the comedic relief in a straight play on Broadway would be fantastic too.
Yes, I'd be down. And so also you wrote Dead Boys for yourself.
Yes.
So how did that come up, and did you write it particularly like for you, and did you have Andrew in mind when you wrote it, or?
I love talking about Dead Boys. Thank you for asking me. There's 2 posters. I'm looking at it now. When you're out of work for months, it's good to sit alone in your apartment surrounded by proof that you were working at one point. Dead Boys was a show that I started writing before I met Andrew. Dead Boys is a two-person show that I did as part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Then I did the Blank Theater, and then I did it Celebration Theater. And we actually closed, I think it was 2 years ago right now. I'm still working on trying to get it back up. But it's a show about it's one scene, 80 minutes, two guys trapped in the basement of their old high school at the end of the world. And one was the gay kid in school who got bullied all the time, and the other one was the guy that used to beat him up. But it turns into kind of like a love story that deals with race relations and toxic masculinity and religion and Christianity growing up. And, I at the time when I started writing it, I was in a relationship with a guy who I dealt with a lot of discrimination growing up being gay because I was in a Christian environment, and it was all like based off of like religion is why I was like the weapon that was used against me. And I was in a relationship with a Salvadorian American who through being with him, I learned a lot about the discrimination he faced for being queer had nothing to do with religion. It was cultural for him. And I learned a lot just by seeing things and being with him. And it kind of got me thinking about stuff that he went through growing up and me growing up. And then I kind of had that idea. And I really love two-person pieces because there's no choice but to... You can't hide. You have to connect with the other person. Ensemble pieces are so fun. But like a two-person show, it's just you got to do it. And I kind of wanted to challenge myself in that way. And Andrew Puente is an actor who I admire so much, and one of my best friends. I adore him. He's so talented. And I did a web series with him, and when I met him, I was like, oh my God, he would be perfect for this. And so I kind of revisited the idea, and then I kept writing more with Andrew in mind. And I don't speak Spanish, and I'm by no means trying to be a spokesperson for the Latinx community at all. So Andrew helped me through the writing process where I would check in with him and we would kind of work on it together, and I'd be like, does this seem authentic to you? We even I worked with his mother some to try to get the story right and the relationship right. And it's something we workshopped for a very long time and worked very closely together, and the response was really overwhelmingly positive. And that actually, all that is on YouTube. I put the show on YouTube a couple months ago, just because why not? You know what I mean? If I ever do another production of it, I might have to take that down. So don't get angry if you check and it's gone. But there was something at the beginning of quarantine where I was like, I just want to see theater. I miss theater so much. I was on Broadway HD watching everything. And I was like, I have a copy of this. I'm just going to upload this giant ass file on YouTube. And so Dead Boys is actually on YouTube. We filmed the second to last performance a couple years ago. I'm so glad you saw that show, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
It was so good. I forgot how many times I saw it, but I feel like sometimes plays, especially like two-person plays, can be like a hit and miss. But with Dead Boys, it was like I was completely drawn to it all the times I saw it. In the storyline, the emotional aspect, everything was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that show evolved a lot too, because we started at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and we had an hour limit, so the show had to be under 60 minutes. And then these producers at the Blank Theater, who I adore the Blank Theater, a dramaturg named Sheila McFadden, and there's a director named Christopher Raymond, came to see it, and we're like, I think there's something here, and I developed it with them with something called the Living Room series. And there's a playwright named Beth Bigler who is so talented, and she was kind of like my mentor and helped me flesh it out into like an 80-minute show. And then we got into a place I felt really good about it, and then I took some of that team from the Blank to put it up kind of on our own as a visitor bonus show at the Celebration Theater in West Hollywood, which is a theater that specializes in, I think it's the longest running LGBT theater in Los Angeles. So that felt like the right place to be because it was telling a specifically queer story. And we got to do just a quick run of it in June and July 2018.
Yeah, I feel like I saw it at all three theaters, and
I
watched it kind of like evolve.
You're always so supportive. I always love seeing you at shows so much, and it's kind of like a stamp of approval when you're like, okay, Becca's coming to see a show. Okay, it's a cool show. Like we're doing like something really, really good. She came back. She's filming it. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like we all kind of like we know when you're there, and we all kind of like we wait for it and we like hope that you think it's cool.
That makes me happy because I mean, I love watching you all on stage.
Well, we love having you there.
So how did you get involved in Jordan stuff? Because you've done a couple of shows with Jordan Ross now.
Yeah,
So
Jordan Roschindler, I love him so much. He's also a really good friend, and he's kind of a dream maker. He's one of those people where it's like, I want to do a musical about I Know What You Did Last Summer. We're doing it next week, and I'm like, okay.
yeah,
We knew each other socially. We got to know each other through I think it was Molly McCook or Lindsay Rosen. Like there was a couple like we were just in the same circle, like socially. And I remember we were at my friend Lindsay Rosen she's an author and she's a writer and she's so insanely talented. And I went to her book launch party and Jordan was there. And Jordan and I were just kind of standing in the corner and he mentioned I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is my favorite movie of all time.
and you're like, oh my god, something Halloween.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm like 60% Halloween and 40% summer. So if you get a scary movie that takes place in summer, I'm like so in.
Scary
And
movies.
he mentioned to me, he's like, I'm thinking about doing a musical version of I Know What You Did Last Summer at one point. And I was like, that's my favorite movie. I know more about it than you do. And you should have this song in it. And we just kind of started talking about it. And I feel like we both get very carried away. We get ideas and get very, very excited. And I love all of his ideas. And I feel so like giddy to be friends with him. And then he told me at the time not to say anything, but now that it's gone, I think we can say it now. He texted me like in like, I want to say it was like April or something. It was like, hey, would you play this part would you play Max and I Know What You Did Last Summer this fall? And I was like, yeah, duh. And he was like, okay. He's like, don't say anything yet, but let me know if you want to do that. And I was like, yeah, didn't hear anything from him until like September. This was 2018 as well? Yeah, September 2018, I think. Oh my gosh, is that true? Yeah, 2018. And he was like, our table reads next Wednesday. I was like, for what? And he was like, oh, we're doing the I Know musical. You can still do it, right? And I was like, and like Becca, I was in another show at the time that I was already it's a long story, but there was already like I had apprehensions about some of the stuff going on with it, and I hadn't officially committed to that show yet, but I was like in talks to do it, and I was like, oh, I can't. I was like, I booked another gig, and then I was like, full force, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and that was, if anyone who's watching this who hasn't seen one of Jordan's shows or what we're talking about, it's a musical that's all 90s music that came out in 1997 when the movie came out. And it's kind of like a spoof of the movie in a way, but we sing 90s songs amongst it. And we like interact with the audience the whole time. It's some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, and Jordan's writing and adapting musicals constantly.
I mean, Jennifer's Body, a Walk to Remember, Never Been Kissed. I mean, like the stuff that he does is incredible.
Yeah.
He has such great taste.
I'm sure he's been in like a couple during quarantine or adapted a couple during
some
quarantine.
ideas that I won't share quite yet, but like I don't hold it. I mean, like when he sends me stuff, I'm like, okay, Jordan, and then he does it. So like I should stop having that reaction because like he is a dream maker. He has a way of making things happen that I really admire. It is super cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 3 shows running at the same time at like different theaters.
Yeah, he's a busy guy, but I love him. He's fantastic.
So if you could turn any movie into a musical that hasn't been done by Jordan yet, what would you turn into a musical?
Well, what's funny is that list has gotten very small because all those things have been turned into musicals. Like we did an OC Christmas this past December, which was the biggest I've smiled ever. My parents came to see that one and they were like, I don't think we've ever seen you that happy before. I was like, because it was my dream to be on the OC growing up. Then I'm doing a musical version on stage playing like Seth Cohen. So that would have been kind of the answer, even though that's not a movie. I Know What You Did Last Summer is like crazy amazing. That's pretty high up there. He's talked about doing there's this movie called The Holiday with Jack Black and Cameron Diaz and Jude Law and Kate Winslet. He's mentioned that a couple times. And I don't think there's a part that's right for me in that show, but like I love Holiday so much. That's Christmas for me. So that's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, he'll find something that's right for you and stuff. So
yeah, just like I'll hop in and like have one silly song and then hop out, and I couldn't be happier to do it.
So what advice would you give to like up and coming performers in the industry?
It's a tough time right now, 2020 specifically, especially, that's kind of why we're having this conversation, is because theater is so on pause. I think theater has been around for a very, very long time. And I should know this. I should have like some statistic for how long it's been around. And I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the way that we're dealing with it right now is kind of like an evolution. Like, I just closed a show that on Twitch through Zoom that was a musical. I just started rehearsals yesterday for another one that's going to be live on Zoom in a way,
I was
which
gonna
is
ask about that.
theater, and that's very exciting. It's a new beast and a new animal. So I want to say to anyone who's specifically who's interested in doing theater right now, don't give up on it. It'll come back, and I think it'll come back stronger than ever. And I feel like everything to theater, and there's the magic of theater is something that I haven't been able to recreate really in front of a camera on a set. I absolutely adore doing film and television, of course, but there's like a part of magic that only exists in theater that I don't think will ever go anywhere. And I think that feeling is worth the wait and worth whatever struggle. If you have those moments on stage or even in front of a live audience, if it's a multicam, it makes all the hard work worth it. My dad calls it mountaintop experiences because it's like you work and then you get to the top and you get to see all your hard work. So I want to say to anyone right now who might be feeling discouraged about being an actor right now to not give up, because when it comes back, it will be worth all the hard work. The advice that I would have isn't really specific about take this class or do this kind of thing, because as you've heard, I figured things out on my own way and no one really taught me how to do that, and there's no real right way to make everything happen. I would say you don't necessarily need an agent or a manager at the beginning of your career to make your dreams come true. I would say it's cliche, Becca, but it's really, really true. Be yourself. And a lot of times you get pressured in meetings or whatever. It's like, whose career do you look up to? Or do you want to be the next blank? You know what I mean? I think it's really great to take inspiration and steal from other actors. If you're going, I think who is it, Michael Caine, or who says it? If you're going to steal from the best. Steal little parts of everyone that you love to discover and create who you are. But really be a nice person and be yourself. I would say that will get you very far. I'm one of the least successful out of all of my friends, and there's one actress friend who's very, very who works a whole lot, and I was talking to her about her career, and I was like, "Who's your favorite actor you've ever worked with?" And she named an actress who isn't necessarily known for being the greatest actor, but her reason was, she goes, "This actress works a whole lot because people want to have her around because she's a kind person and she's fun to work with and she works hard." You know what I mean? I think sometimes that there's some actors that disappear, you don't see them working a whole lot. I think there's things that you don't see behind the scenes of, how they treat people on set or how they treat, PAs or the grips or anything like that. I think that you go a really long way if you're a kind person and you're yourself. And I think that will take you really, really far in the meantime while we wait for, and not even in the meantime, when things come back, but I would say, wait, it's worth it. Do theater when you can, be yourself and be a nice person.
And kind of going along with that, how do you work on self-confidence in the industry? Because it's such a tough industry.
I don't know. That's a really hard question. I think, when I had was working on Disney Channel and had a dressing room and was working all the time, it's very easy to get caught up in that stuff. And, if you're not careful, Disney Channel is a place that's really good at making stars, and stars burn out eventually. You know what I mean? I think you need to have something underneath that. And so I'm not saying I'm God's gift or I'm the most humble person on the planet. This was I had to do this for myself. I had signs around my dressing room to humble myself, to remind me I'm not shit. Do you know what I mean? In a way to be I'm not better. No one's better than me, and I'm not better than anyone else. So I think keep staying humble throughout everything. I had distance dinner with an actress friend last night who I admire so much, and she, we were talking about in 2020 being out of a job and how we reconcile all that. And one thing we're talking about, we're like, you know what, Patti LuPone's out of a job right now. Bernadette Peters is out of a job. And there's kind of like a leveling thing where it's like, when you're an actor and you have a job, that's great. When you don't have a job, you start right over. You know what I mean? Like, you go back at zero. And so it's like, there are these really high highs and really low lows. It's like, in LA, it depends on the time of day how you feel about yourself. Like, you could start off the day feeling like you're the king of the world, and then you feel like trash by the end of the day. But to like get ahead of yourself, to know that that's going to be the continuity of a career in the entertainment industry, helps to get ahead of yourself, to stay humble so you don't get caught up in like thinking you're like hot shit. I don't know if we're cussing on here, but I just did. You know what I mean?
It's okay.
And to like to humble yourself. I don't know if that answers the question about self-confidence, but like it's a good thing to like to constantly remind yourself to keep you grounded in a way. I think that quote's really great where it's like, no one's better than you, but you're not better than anyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only one you. It's like your competition is truly yourself.
And earlier you kind of mentioned being an actor first and then kind of getting into singing and not being less of a singer than an actor. How have you worked on singing over the years? Because you've done a lot of singing recently.
Well, when I was growing up, I thought I was a pop star, and so I would like literally record music, and I would have a CD, and I would give it out in the hallways at school. Working on self-confidence, huh? And so I thought I was like Lady Gaga. I thought I was a pop star. I was like trying to do like dubstep before, all on GarageBand, and would like auto-tune my voice like crazy. I've always loved singing. I've always absolutely loved to sing. I took voice lessons growing up a little bit, and honestly, like Becca, when I got out to LA and I started auditioning, I had like sheet music from like from voice lessons, and then I was like, oh girl, I was like, I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was. I was like, oh, these are like legit professional singers. But I loved to sing so much. Like I loved it. And so I gave up on like trying to be like a musical theater star very early on coming to LA, but I would always still sing anyway. I love pop music so much. And Jordan, I Know What You Did Last Summer was the first, like, pretty much the first musical that I did here in Los Angeles. And I remember him saying to my parents, they love to bring this up all the time. My parents were like, Jordan cast me without hearing me sing before. And so he was just hoping that I was good. And he was like, it turns out you're a really good singer. And I was like, oh, thanks. And it was just me singing in that show and then someone else seeing that show. And I kind of hopped from musical to I've been doing musical theater now for 2 years because of I Know What You Did Last Summer, because, Jordan gave me a chance because he knew I loved it. I don't think I would have gotten in just based on a singing audition myself. I think working on it, I just sing all the time. Like if I'm in the car, I've never stopped singing my whole life. I've always just absolutely loved it. In high school, real quick story, I know I'm long-winded, but
no, the dedication is
in
like
high
amazing.
School, we did a musical version of It's a Wonderful Life, which is a musical at some point, and my choir teacher hated me because I was obsessed with American Idol, and I thought I was a pop star, and I don't recommend this to anyone watching, but I would rehearse the song one way. I had a solo at the beginning of the musical, that was it. But I wanted to make sure that no one would forget me. And so I would rehearse it one way, and then in front of an audience, I would do runs like I was Kelly Clarkson, like I was Christina Aguilera, like I was Demi Lovato, and I would like do runs all over the place, and I would like not stick to the sheet music, and I would like, it was ridiculous. I think on my Insta story right now, or my Instagram, I think I still have one of those little circles that you can watch me tell the story, and I sing the song how it's supposed to be sung, and then I sing it how I did sing it, and I became a bad influence on the other castmates and the underclassmen because I would encourage them. I'd be like, you guys, you only have one chance to be on stage. I was like, sing like it's the last time you're ever gonna sing. So people started doing runs in like improving like musical stuff like that. And then our choir teacher hated it. She banned me from singing from graduation because she didn't know what I was going to do live. But I was like, I don't care. I'm a star. They'll remember me. But like, I've always been very extra in that. And so like, I think that kind of personality, some people hate it and some people like it.
But it's helped you get to where you are now. It's helped you
Yeah,
like
that's true.
continue
Yeah.
to get jobs, the passion and like the I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
going and going. Like you telling the story, I'm like, okay, no wonder he's where he is right now.
Yeah. I haven't really changed my whole life at all. I've always been exactly the same.
Yes. You kind of addressed this earlier, but if you have anything else to add, how do you think live theater will be different when it's able to come back?
That's a really good question. Right now, I'm taking this class, a Zoom class, which I will be headed to right after we say goodbye, actually. That's about that's the Center Theater Group is doing right now, CTG. They kind of had it earlier this summer, and I kind of just signed up for it, and I lucked into it. But it's talking about the state of theater in 2020 and where does it go from here, and what do we do? I think one way that theater hopefully will change in a big way is diversity and representation. I think that's extremely important. If you look at the theater crowd um, in Los Angeles as a whole, it's older white people because that's the way, we could get into a whole long talk about this, but like systemically in a way, those are the people that can afford to go see theater because tickets are very, very expensive. Um, to see theater as a whole. And I think theaters like the Geffen and CTG have been taking steps the last few years to reach out to different kinds of communities and making things cheaper for younger people to go see theater. I think a lot of the reason why young people don't see theater is because it is so expensive and we can't afford to go see that stuff. How that is. And so I think they're taking steps. Hopefully they'll be taking steps for a lot more people than just old white people to go see theater and make it accessible for, especially young queer people, young people of color, BIPOC people, disabled people. Like, I think there's a whole lot more that could be done theater wise. And CTG and this class is taking a lot of steps and discussions about how they can make theater a better place for the way that specifically in American theater, the way that America looks, the way that the people we're surrounded by look, and those people are seen on stage and are in the audience. You know what I mean? I think you've been in a lot of audiences for things, and it's a lot of old white people sleeping in the front row, and
Yeah.
I
They can
think
afford this
theaters for a lot more people than just them. I'm really hoping that's the way things are going to change. I hope things will be way more colorful and way more queer and gay once we come out of this. I do think it'll be 2021 before we have theater in Los Angeles, at least the way that we know it. I don't know. It's hard to predict about like seating and social distancing and things like that. But one thing that I'm really, really hopeful for and cautiously optimistic are those things, diversity and representation.
Yeah. That's what's so great about Rockwell, I feel like, is that the crowd, like, at those types of theaters are different than what you see at, like, Pantages and
Yeah.
Amundsen.
I
And
think a lot of like young people in general don't have access to theater or don't know how to get access to theater or aren't familiar with it. I think Hamilton being on Disney Plus got a lot of people to see maybe a play that they've never seen before. I think Broadway HD is a great place that has a lot of theater that you can see. A part of the reason why After Hours Theater Company / Pixel Playhouse was doing the Definitely Not Clue musical that we did on Twitch was there was an audience of people online that got to see a lot of us on stage that normally don't. I mean, like I have a lot of fans online, and so do a lot of people. That there was this Sterling Suleiman who was in the show with me, and Janaea Jones, two actors who are so insanely talented and gorgeous, and I am obsessed with. If you don't live in LA a lot of times or New York, you wouldn't get to see us or them on stage. And the fact that it was Zoom and Twitch live, you get to see musical theater live in front of you in a way, and you get to see these performances that you normally wouldn't get to see. And so I think being creative with things like that and just continually thinking out of the box to focus on younger people, queer people, and people of color to be involved, seen on stage and in the audience for theater would be incredible. And I'm hopeful for that for 2021.
yes, I hope virtual stuff sticks around for a while too, even when theater does come back. Because
Yeah.
accessibility, as you said.
Accessibility for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything you've been working on in quarantine that you want to promote?
There's one thing I'm working in quarantine that I can't promote yet. That would be very exciting, and we have a table read for that on Monday. Um, and if it were to be the cast that I think it could be, that would be something that's never been seen before and be very exciting. We'll see. We'll see. We kind of joke as actors, we're like everything happens and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know what surprises me more, if you never hear what I'm talking about ever again, or it's a thing that happens. But I'd love to put that out in the universe because that would be, and you would gag for what would be happening and who would be. It's just too good to be true. But I, as you mentioned, yes, I started rehearsals yesterday for. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but this might date us a little bit. But the Young Playwrights Festival, which is the Blank Theater's annual play festival that they do, usually in June, do it live. And the Young Playwrights Festival, what they do is they take plays from all across I think it might be the world, maybe it's the United States, from ages 9 to 19 who write one-act plays. I've acted in it a few times. They are doing it this year, and it's going to be online. I still figure out the exact details of it, but you know me, I'll be obnoxious about posting about it online. I would check out the Blank Theater's Instagram and their Twitter and things like that. We're going to be pre-taping these one acts at home, and they'll be streamed online like their theater. And it'll be like, I think it's 4 weekends of different one acts. And mine's directed by Constance Zimmer, who's an actress I admire so much, and I'm so excited to be working with her. And the cast is really great. I have one castmate. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it is and all that stuff, but like the cast is really fantastic, and we're just going in. That's a very different animal from anything that I've ever worked on before. Doing eye lines and sight lines, and you're filming it at home. Is a really exciting, weird, kind of crazy thing to do. But I'm excited for people to see that the Young Playwrights Festival always takes these plays. There's always 12 winners from across the United States. They get a celebrity director and a mentor, and then they cast working actors to bring them to life. So the caliber of talent for the cast is always very, very high. The people that I'm working with are so amazing. So I'm geeking out thinking about some of them. And to work under Constance is really, really cool. So it's like really great people who are banding together to do, theater, to bring these young kids' voices to life. And the stuff that they write, is really profound. And the piece that I'm working on is very smart and funny. And it's kind of a way for us to laugh with some of the things that have happened in 2020. So I'm very excited for that. I'm not sure when that goes live. I think it's the end of August. But I literally got the offer yesterday and we just started. So I'll be posting more about that. But yeah, the Blank Theater's Young Playwrights Festival will be streamed live this year for 2020. So I'm working on that right now.
I'm so excited about that and to learn more. And I'm glad that you're like working on something that's a virtual thing, so I can see something virtual.
Yes, it's good to like have a call time and lines to memorize. And I realize it feels a little punk rock in a way, especially for Definitely Not Clue, because like I feel like we have all the odds working against us as artists right now. So to be able to be a part of something that's, working itself around that, it's like, hey, we can still perform in this new way or in this cool way, or we're figuring this out. To be a part of that, it feels kind of like defiant in like a satisfying way.
Yeah, and it just like makes you feel like productive during this tough time,
Yeah, and it makes this time is kind of like stripped away a lot for all of us and kind of like revealed what's underneath, and us having to face what's underneath. And I talked about this on an Instagram post called How Are You Really? That was something that Debbie Ryan was doing. We're getting people to talk just really frankly about how they were doing. I'm very honest.
I love it so much.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And, a lot of my talk about confidence and identity comes from being an actor, and I feel my most fulfilled and happiest when I'm performing and acting. And, a lot of, like Spook Night and Dead Boys came from a place where I don't have a job. I have to create my own opportunity so I get to perform. And I kind of had to relearn a lot of those lessons the past few months about figuring out who I am, what do I actually love, who am I when everything's gone away. And even without the opportunities, I still identify first and foremost and most deeply as an actor. And that's just been, reinforced with some of these new opportunities of us creating new kind of ways to express ourselves through Zoom and Twitch and things like that. And I love actors so much. I know you do too. I love them.
Yeah.
So I think actors are so sexy and smart and exciting. And I think artists are 100% essential workers and invaluable, and should be revered and highly respected for the work that we do. And I think entertainment, as you've seen in quarantine and in 2020, we turn to entertainment for catharsis, for release, for comfort. And I think artists should be revered in that way. And I feel very, very blessed to be part of a community of artists, because I think they're really special, beautiful people who do a lot of good for the world.
Where can people learn more if they don't follow you on social media yet, or don't know where
My Instagram is Matthew_Scott_Montgomery. There's a few of me. I'm the blue check one. I'm on Twitter at iRobotUJane. I would say Twitter's becoming more of a retweet platform of speaking out for things. If you want to follow career-wise specifically, Instagram's probably a better place to check. If you want to know about ways you can help things as an American right now, maybe Twitter's a better place to go, or maybe not. Twitter can be rough. I'm Matthew Scott Montgomery on TikTok. Girl, that's just for fun. And then my YouTube is just Matthew Scott Montgomery as well.
I've been so inspired by this whole conversation. I feel
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I feel like you're one of the most inspiring people to talk to because of the passion going on and I got to create something for myself, for other people.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun talking to you. Thank you for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!